competition time again, and here is a chance to win a brand new PS5. All you got to do is subscribe to On Track GP on YouTube.
Also follow us on Instagram at OnTrackGP.
Make sure you like the competition post. It's pinned on Instagram as well.
You can win yourself this right now. What are you waiting for?
Can I enter? Or can I have a go?
No.
Hello and welcome to On Track GP. We are getting ready, we're getting excited because it is Miami weekend.
Come on! Miami, baby!
I feel like we need some like Will Smith in the background, like welcome to Miami.
Yeah, and then he'll just like slap Chris Rock or something.
Yeah, we need a little bit of that. So we are going to be in Miami at the Miami International Autodrome. It's a temporary street circuit. It's built around the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. It held its first Grand Prix last season. It was won by Max Verstappen. It's got 19 turns. It's 3.363 miles in length. I'm just going to give you all the stats.
Yeah.
Let's get them out the way. Long back straight into turn 17. Keep your eyes out for that one. Leading to the swooping final turn 18 and main straight. Turns 11 and 16 notorious for slowing down and tightening up specifically as the circuit passes under the freeway. So we have essentially a kind of street circuit once again.
Car park circuit.
Car park circuit, yeah.
The only difference with this street circuit is there's not a lot to look at. Like they have Baku, like your historic castles. This one is car
Thankfully
park.
in Baku there was a lot to look at because the race was not
Scenery
very
is the best
entertaining.
part.
Hey, we might have mermaids again this year.
Yeah,
so
true.
Nice.
that's something to look forward to.
I think they've actually got real water this time, which is
Oh.
a change from last year.
They've
when they
stepped
had
up
fake
a lot.
water. I know, bring the big budget in.
Do you know what? I think
Water in.
one of my favourite things about Baku was that camera angle where someone's just pointing the camera through a tiny
castle.
hole in the castle.
Very
Someone's going to do that on top of the freeway and those like
Yeah.
hoardings and gates. Anyway, it is a street circuit essentially. So this should mean that Red Bull in turn, Sergio Perez, has a great race, Sam.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah, it's a weird street circuit. It's sort of like an average street circuit. What I mean by that is it's not really good for straights. It's not overly good for corners. So like most street circuits, you can say it's good for corners or it's got long straights such as Baku. Whereas this one's got a mixture of both really. Like so, you've obviously got that long straight that you mentioned, but you've got a lot of twisty corners. I know the drivers aren't particularly happy with the corners in sector 3. They think they're a bit too tight and like you have to slow right down. And if anyone's ever played the F1 game, you'll know that's true because you've been into the wall about 9 times there. But yeah, like it's a weird track. But yeah, like you said, well, Red Bull are the quickest car, so you expect them to do well. But a team like McLaren or maybe Ferrari, like they've got a lot of upgrades coming. So like you mentioned, those sweeping corners that might make them a bit better than we've seen it so far.
Well, Max Verstappen became the first winner of the Miami Grand Prix in 2022. He overtook Charles Leclerc down the main straight during that race. Finished in P3 in Baku.
Yeah.
Are you feeling more confident? I noticed you're not wearing the jacket and the cap.
I'm saving it for the big event on Sunday. Or the cap, no.
He's retired the cap.
That's a Carlos Sainz hat. Can't be wearing that at the minute. Good. Finally, a pole position. Should have been the second one of the season after Australia, but finally a pole in Baku last week for Ferrari, which is good. I think I'm gonna put a prediction out there already.
Go on.
I'm going for a hat trick of poles for Charles Leclerc. The sprint in Baku, the race in Baku, and I'm going to put him on pole.
Wow.
For Miami GP as well. Yeah, I'm getting that out there now.
Okay.
I don't think he'll win the race.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I think. As a one-shot driver around a track, I think Charles Leclerc is as good as, if not the best that we've got.
Okay. It's an interesting situation because when I was watching that Baku race, I thought to myself, what more could Leclerc have really done? With the pace of that Red Bull down the straight, there's nothing you can do.
He was about 15 seconds off.
Yeah, it's indefensible. So the best that Leclerc and Sainz can really do for Ferrari is to get one car into the podium and then obviously maybe try and finish us outside. That's how uncompetitive it's getting. A lot of people were complaining. They were like, yo, this is not how we expected it with the cars meant to be able to follow closely in behind and it's meant to be more competitive. Red Bull just ran off down the road.
I just think it's just a bit of jealousy, really. I'm just sensing a lot of jealousy. Look, for everything that's been said about Baku, it wasn't the best race in the world. But if you look at the individual battles, there is things to get you excited there. If you look at the fact that Sergio Perez essentially led that race for the majority of it, Verstappen pitted, and for whatever reason, the pit wall decided to do that. And then he kept Verstappen behind Checo, and Verstappen couldn't catch him. So there is a real battle that is going to be ensuing sitting there between those two Red Bulls because they're not far off in terms of points. I think it's maybe only 13 points or something that separates them. So as the season goes on, and this is a street circuit, which we all know Checo is amazing at, this could be another win for Checo. It could hot up.
It kind of has to be. Like I was saying a couple of weeks ago on here, that for this season to be exciting at the top, it has to be a fight between the two Red Bull drivers. There can't be any favoritism, any calls from the pit wall to kind of favour Verstappen. And obviously we know Christian Horner's that's his boy and whatnot. But I want to see Perez also dig deep and find that winning mentality as well, and actually go and compete for a title. I know that people will question whether he's capable of actually sealing the deal, but at least make it a spectacle, because you've got the car to do it. So, and he's been a great teammate to Verstappen over the years. So there's no reason now why. Not expecting the favour to be returned in the title race, but there's no reason why now they shouldn't let him fight with Verstappen. He's literally got Verstappen a title with some of his defensive play against Hamilton, so I think he deserves it.
I think it sounds like he is in fighting talk because he actually said to the media that he thinks he can take the fight to Verstappen for the title after success in Baku. He pointed out that he would have been leading the championship now if it wasn't for the issues in Melbourne.
I like that.
That would be true, yeah.
I like that.
I think
feisty.
Yeah, feisty talk.
Maybe he wants to go back to Mexico.
I just think if I'm Perez, I'm trying to get as many points now as possible. Like, so the street circuits tend to be like bookend the season, so we get a lot in like the Asia leg, and we get a lot on the Americas leg. Obviously, you've got Monaco in the middle, but I think for Perez, he needs to get as many points now because like that run of European races, there's not a lot of street circuits. Like, there's also you got the Dutch Grand Prix, which Max obviously has all the fans. Yeah,
Italian
so like
Grand Prix.
I think Perez now needs to really get points on the board if he has any hope. Because I think, as we saw last year, like Leclerc got off to a good start, but then Verstappen sort of just clicks into gear, usually at Imola, and then sort of that's it. Like, it's relentless. So Perez needs to get a big advantage now. Like, and even if he wins this race and Verstappen crashes out, or whatever, that's still only 15 sort of points between them. So yeah, I think Perez's ideal goal, if he's going to win a championship, is to get as many points now as he can, so that when he comes to the back end of the calendar and we return to some more street circuits, then maybe he's got a chance to get the lead back.
I agree with that, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Ferrari, shall we? Fred Vasseur has confirmed that the team will bring in its first upgrades of the season in Miami. Big weekend for you!
Let's go!
We're getting some upgrades!
I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man. I've worked hard for this.
There's smaller updates also planned to come in the upcoming European races. Charles Leclerc took pole position last year. He could be one to watch again after Baku. Were you impressed with him in Baku?
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with what Matisse said before. What more could he have done, really? The Red Bull car. Let's just park it for a minute. Leave it. They'll probably still win the race, even if we park it. But leaving the Red Bull for a second. I think Ferrari have to be second in the constructor. That absolutely has to be what they're pushing for. And they've got the certainly Charles Leclerc, and hopefully Sainz just feels a bit washed at the minute. I'm just not feeling it. It's just there's something.
I will not have this sign slander.
No.
I will not.
We
have
will.
it.
His hat. I spent 50 quid on that. 50 quid on that.
Microscope
Dude can't even get on a podium.
From the beginning. The microscope is on science from the very get-go.
Why though?
Because it has to be. He has to step up, because if Ferrari are going to compete with Red Bull, you need two drivers
But they're not
to do
competing with Red Bull. They're miles off it.
I agree, and that's been...
They're competing with Aston and Mercedes.
But their aspirations are to get back to the top. Ferrari have been off the top for so long now, it's getting almost infuriating. And I'm not even a Ferrari fan.
man.
Like,
Yeah, but I don't
this
think
is Ferrari.
You can't just pin that all on Sainz. You
I'm
have to
not
look at
I'm
the
not.
strategic errors
Yes.
that
No,
Ferrari
correct.
and the
We're gonna-
calamitous
100%.
decisions they've made, and also not having a car that is up there to be able to challenge the likes of Red Bull.
100%. But he as a driver, is he good enough to go toe for toe and match those top drivers? If you put Sainz, if I was to say to you, right, we're going to put Sainz on podium, we're going to put him on pole for the qualifying, and we're going to ask Sainz to lead for the majority of the race and bring it home. Do you trust Sainz to win a race?
In what car?
In say the Ferrari car is level with Red Bull, right? And it's a close battle between him and Verstappen. You put Sainz on pole after qualifying, you say, right, go and win us this race. Do you trust Sainz to be able to win you the race?
I don't think he's as good as Verstappen, but I think he's as good as Perez in terms of like a second driver.
And so your second driver is as good as their second driver, but then Leclerc is a little bit of a drop off, from Verstappen. So this is where you're going to have to try and bring the margins.
But it's difficult to have someone that is like Max Verstappen.
That's why you need
like-
that's why you need two drivers.
But they've got two drivers. They've got two good drivers. If the car was better suited, this is the question that we asked last week: what's more important, the driver or the car?
Yeah.
The car.
I think so.
I always say though, Sainz has only ever won one race in his career. like compared to
Yeah.
Verstappen's won loads. Obviously, ignore Verstappen and Leclerc, they've won loads.
Yeah.
But like Perez, even when he was at Racing Point, managed to win a race. Like,
Ah, shit, yeah.
Sainz
right.
has won.
I think you're disrespecting Perez, to be honest, by
Sainz-
putting him with Sainz.
Sainz's one win came at Silverstone last year, and it came at the Ferrari mucked up Leclerc's run. Like he could have won it easily. Like so, Sainz.
Yeah.
We talk about him being as good as Perez, and I think like you said, like Perez has like sort of proved it. I know Perez is older, like he's had more time on the grid, but he's done it at teams like Racing Point, like, and he's produced wins out of the bag, really, like which you don't always expect. Whereas Sainz is so far. I mean,
I think you need to put some respect on Perez.
yeah, I think.
I absolutely love Sergio Perez. I love him.
I think in Sainz's like probably best performance came probably during McLaren or like one of those days when like at Imola when Gasly won or whatever. Like Monza,
that was a great
but, like,
race. Gasly,
he did really well then, but like he's yes he's won a race, but like it came with the
whole field
caveat
messed
that-
up that day.
Yeah,
I don't even
like-
know why I defend Carlos Sainz so much. It's not even my team, but
Yeah,
I
you can
just
always rely on Sam to sort of bring you crashing back down to earth.
Right, well,
It's like, "Whoa, yeah, I love Carlos Sainz." I was like, he's won one race. Like, come on, slow
He's not doing
down.
great.
well, again, this stat isn't very good because Carlos Sainz was one of the drivers to suffer a crash at turns 13 and 14 last season in Miami. So he'll be looking to better. And there has been a lot of criticism around Sainz this week. So surely you would be thinking he's going to put in a performance and valiant display.
Well, that's what I've been waiting for that from Sainz, but he's just constantly underwhelming in my eyes. Like he's just never challenged Leclerc as much. I know he's finished ahead of one race this season, but like when can you ever say that Leclerc was challenged much by Sainz? Like he's just constantly underwhelming. Like yes, he says the car doesn't suit him that much, but like other than his first season at Ferrari where he did beat Leclerc on points, like after that Leclerc's just had the beating him of every time. Like we talk about maybe Leclerc can get pole. Like no one's saying that about Sainz, and they're in the same car. Like it shows the ability. Of Leclerc.
Exactly.
Oh,
the
God.
fact that is a fantastic way to wrap it up. The fact that nobody even mentions Sainz's name for poles or even podiums. Let's be real. You know, if you're talking about podiums, you've mentioned George Russell, you're mentioning Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Alonso. Where's Sainz? Where's Sainz?
Sick.
Yo,
And, like,
turn up.
Russell's won the
Answer
same.
your phone.
Russell's won the same amount of races, and he's only had 1 year in the top team. And even that top team then was having its issues. Like Leclerc's had is this his third season at Ferrari now, and like he just hasn't performed other than that first year. Like so. Sorry.
Right,
I feel really
Throw
sad.
that
That's shut us up.
Forget it.
And
Right.
his dad follows me on Twitter, so I'm definitely getting unfollowed, but it's fine.
Well, you can follow me, Papa Sainz, because I love your son. I absolutely
Me and
love
Sam
him.
from the top rope there.
Yeah, literally. Right, let's move on to Aston Martin. They had a big drop-off in pace in Baku. Alonso did point out, though, that the team managed to finish a second off third place after struggling with DRS issues on both cars all weekend. But it was quite a drop-off, Matisse, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think with Aston Martin, it's going to have a couple of moments this season where we do see drop-offs, but this is the first season we're seeing them at this level.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of seeing what tracks suit them, what tracks don't suit them, where their weak points are, because it was such a great start, and you just assume it's just going to carry on. But there are going to be moments where you see a weakness in that Aston Martin team, and you know that race was one of them. So I'm not really going to jump to any conclusions with Aston Martin. They got a quick car. I think they've shown that. Their straight line speed is good. I'm just interested to see how the season goes for them. And the fact that they're even in this conversation is credit to itself. They can't kind of skip the steps of improvement. And they've made a massive jump up. They've completely obliterated Alpine. So
We're going to get to Alpine.
so the fact that they've done that is a credit in itself.
Yeah, he did mention, Alonso, about the track, and he said the long sweeping straights of Baku, it didn't really suit the car. They could be much more competitive this weekend. And also what I found very interesting is kind of this like grasshopper mastered type of dynamic that Alonso and Stroll have got going on at the moment. It's as if he's kind of like tutoring Stroll on the side, because he realises, Alonso, that he doesn't have that many years left in F1, but Stroll could be around for the next 10, 15, which is quite sweet. It's very un-Alonso.
Yeah, definitely. I think they both sort of accepted that they want to get the team as high up as possible. So like, they weren't going to attack each other because that sort of makes
No sense.
no sense, and they might have a crash as Alonso did with Alpine last year. So like, it is nice, and I was thinking about like Stroll's had some excellent tutors in the past. Like obviously he's had Alonso now, he's had Vettel in the past, so he's learned from some really good
He
drivers.
should be unbelievable, really.
Yeah, and I think
in
he
years
is
to come.
starting to get a little bit better. Like he's constantly in the top 10, and like he's had some issues that weren't his fault this year, which explains why he's not as high as you might expect. But like, I think it's nice that him and Alonso just sort of working together, because like you said, Alonso hasn't always been the best teammate. I'm thinking back to when Hamilton came in the first
But
year.
that's when he sensed danger.
Yeah, I think
He
Alonso
obviously doesn't sense danger.
No,
Yeah, I
and he
think
shouldn't.
Alonso knows that there's no real challenge there, other than the fact that it's his boss's son. Like, there's probably that weird dynamic there. You don't want to be too.
And you kind of have to be nice to him then, don't you?
Yeah, you don't want to be too aggressive to him, like, because he's
Yeah.
not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's nice that they're both working together. And even if we say that Aston took a step down in Baku, like compared to where they were last year, it's still like a massive improvement. So like,
Absolutely.
I just think it was a circuit that just doesn't suit their car. Like, they're much better around corners, and hopefully Miami for them will be a bit easier.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a pole this weekend for Aston?
No, not a pole.
Not a pole?
Not a pole.
It's already going to
I was
Leclerc.
going to say,
like,
why
it's
is
locked
that?
in.
Yeah, why is that? Why
No,
say?
I think there's on this circuit there's 4 quicker cars going around, 2 Red Bulls, 2 Ferraris, and the Mercedes maybe. So I'd be very surprised if any of them get a pole. Maybe and not even a front row actually. Maybe a second row. Maybe a second row.
Just tumbling down.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think we know it's very good under braking, but there's the 3 DRS zones of this track. So I don't know. They're doing a beautiful job in the Aston Martin, but I'm not sure I don't think this is going to be their week where they're going to go and win their race or start on pole. I don't see that happening.
I'm seeing a lot of, underhanded antics there from you. Because you realise
Envy.
they are your real challenges in terms of the
Look,
constructors.
I'll always be the first to put my hands up and say when someone's doing a good job, and they are doing a very good job. But this week, I don't. Someone's going to clip this when Alonso
Yeah.
when
When Alonso finishes.
When Alonso
I
wins
don't
the
see
Grand
it.
Prix.
This week, I don't see it. I think they're going to have a great season. I think they're very much going to push for second. But this week, I don't think they're going to start on pole, and I don't think they're going to win the race.
Okay,
definitely
all right, green-eyed monster. Right, Mercedes, your favourite.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton said after the race in Baku that he isn't too worried about the result and that he hoped would be part of building the team to get where they need to be. And Toto Wolff also sparked concern for how boring the race was in Baku, and he urged the FIA to look at the weekend to the new sprint schedule.
I was not a fan of the format at all.
Me neither.
Really didn't like it. I think it took away from the race with the points being allocated in the sprint. And I just prefer the traditional setup of qualifying and actually giving the drivers the 3 practice sessions that I think they need. So a lot of people going off at, I think it was turn 3. And turn 3 is already difficult enough as it is, let alone with only 1 practice session. So I think for the new fans coming in, it's confusing for them as well. So I don't think that actually helps. I know they're trying to bring excitement and views, and they want more racing on the weekend, but you're kind of ruining the main spectacle, in my opinion, by chopping it up and doing sprint race beforehand and a shootout and all of these things. So I'm not a big fan of it. So I can understand Toto's complaints. I don't think Toto's kind of talking about it from a Red Bull point of view, which is that they're dominating, because that would be incredibly hypocritical considering how much Mercedes dominated. And I think he said that, Mercedes just need to level up, Listen, Red Bull are doing a brilliant job, and the best way to win is to actually catch them up, not to have the regulations change. And for Hamilton and Mercedes, I'm just looking for upgrades. I'm just waiting on upgrades. Imola, you said, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Please hurry.
One more race.
I'm waiting.
We're there.
Hurry.
Hurry up. So
We're drowning out
I'm
here.
just waiting for upgrades, and we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Okay, right, moving on to McLaren. They introduced a big upgrade package last weekend in Baku for their MCL 60, and they seem to be happy with its performance. Were you happy with its performance, Sam?
Yeah, I think it looks a lot better. I think Norris said that this is where they should have started the season when the season began. So they've just made a lot of improvement. But I think the problem with that is, yes, you're now back to where you should have started, but you're 4 races behind everyone else. This is such a competitive sport in terms of upgrading quickly. It was good that they got some points, or they've got nearer the points. Their car's improved, but it's now a question of, okay, can they improve at such a rate that they catch up with the likes of? I mean, they're battling Alpine, who've sort of had their own issues, so they've been lucky in
To
that
their
regard.
advantage, actually.
Yeah.
It's been lucky that Alpine have sort of stumbled over the start line, really. But I think it's a better performance from McLaren. I think this is another track that could suit them with those big swooshing corners round. And I think they look better.
Okay, Oscar Piastri, he also had food poisoning this weekend, so he did very well to finish P11, and he only ate 4 slices of toast.
Oh, wow.
Okay, he must have been starving. Alpine, Joe.
Yikes.
Yeah, they are another team who did introduce upgrades in Baku, but it was absolutely dismal. They didn't show any true potential. I mean, people say they could be ones to watch in Miami, but
We say that every week.
we're saying that every
Yeah.
week at the moment. It's just not got going the way that we thought it would with Gasly and Ocon, has it?
No, not at all. I was expecting them to be points every week. The two of them going toe to toe, and they are level on points, but I think they've got like 4 points each or something. Like it's really low numbers. They'll be very disappointed in the Alpine garage that they haven't pushed ahead and grown that, exactly as you were just saying, grown that gap on McLaren. So yeah, disappointing all round for Alpine.
They should be a team that any time one of the top 4 teams have an error, whether it's strategically or engine failure, they should be the ones that are ready to pounce and take advantage. And they're just disappointing.
Yeah.
If anything, it was downgrades in Baku, not upgrades.
I would agree. It was really, really poor from them. Sam, would you say that? I know it's a bit too soon to judge this Gasly and Ocon partnership. There was a lot of hype over it, the French connection. Do you think that the issues are coming more from the car than the drivers themselves, or a bit of both?
Yeah, I think it's mainly the car. I think both drivers sort of done as well as possible. Like, obviously they had that crash, but that was sort of like bad luck, if anything. Like, it wasn't
We can't talk about Melbourne.
Yeah, sorry, a long time ago. But yeah, I think
Everyone crashed.
yeah, I think mainly the car. I think they're sort of just both waiting to like have a decent car so they can have a run out. I think they're both good drivers. Like, yeah, I just think they haven't had the tools to get it done, really.
Okay, AlphaTauri. Yuki Tsunoda, he continues to lead the team. Are there another points finish in Azerbaijan? De Vries had a weekend to forget. And I feel like we've said this, and it's only 4 races, but we've said this pretty much every week.
Yeah, I've been quite sour on De Vries. Like, I don't think he's that good. I think there was a reason he didn't get in the sport till he's 28. Like, I think that's becoming more apparent of every race. Like, I mean, it's a bit of a bold prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if they sort of started looking at different drivers. Like, if you get halfway through the season and he's still doing this, like, what's the point?
There's no point.
Red Bull might as well get in a junior driver just to give him some experience. They've done that before in the past. Like, they're not afraid to change drivers during the middle of the season. That's how Verstappen got his first test in the Red Bull. But like, yeah, I mean, he's just constantly disappointing. Like,
Does Danny Ricciardo want an opportunity?
That was literally my next question.
maybe whether
This is a chance for Danny. He says he misses the sport. There you go.
He's also part of Red Bull.
There you
Why
go.
not?
Humble yourself.
like,
He needs to humble himself.
Yeah.
Humble yourself.
This is what we wanna
AlphaTauri, there
see.
you go.
Yeah.
Ricciardo,
That would be
make a
brilliant.
comeback. AlphaTauri.
Can you imagine him and Tsunoda? That would be a wonderful little friendship.
Man, I would
love
love
it.
that.
It's what we need in F1.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you'd say, Manchester United, he's just doing so much better. Like, I think the worst thing for De Vries is, yes, he's having all the crashes, but then his teammate's doing well, so that makes you look even worse. Like, if Tsunoda's getting in points, which no one really expected at the start of the season, like, that just makes De Vries look worse. Yeah, Tsunoda's done really well. Like, he's probably been the standout driver away from the top 10 that's impressed so far.
Yeah.
Tsunoda, he has definitely improved. Where do we think they're just going to be, just somewhere in midfield?
Yeah, I think the most they can ever really hope for is sort of that P10 spot. Like, if you look at the other cars on the grid, like, you'd say that the top 8 are sort of sorted already in some different order of like the top 4 teams as they are. And then it's sort of like a battle. You'd expect it's a battle between McLaren and Alpine for those last point spots. So that maybe if Tsunoda can sneak in there like he's done a few times. If one of those teams messes up or whatever, they'll be in there. But also, I think there's just a lot of competition for that P10 spot this year. Like, you've got them, you've got Williams who've done okay but had a few issues. Like Haas, another team that's sort of close. I think the only team that's sort of been nowhere near the points has been Alfa Romeo so far. So like everyone else is sort of battling for that last spot.
Yeah, you teed me up nicely there because we are talking about Alfa Romeo. It's another difficult weekend that they had in Baku. Bottas really struggled with the tyres during the race. Zhou Guanyu having to retire as well with an issue. I just feel like they're just plodding along a little bit.
Yeah, I think if De Vries is most disappointing driver, like, they're definitely the most disappointing team. Like, they've just, if you compare this to last year, like, they had such good speed. Like, Bottas was getting some good results. Like, that just seems to have gone.
Finished 7th in my
Yeah, that just seems to have gone within the space of a year, and you're wondering like why. Like, obviously, yes, they're sort of, I don't know, like, Alfa Romeo's leaving this season, but underneath that is like Sauber, and they're going to be there even after Audi come in. So it's not really an excuse to say, oh, we're just waiting for Audi to come in with their engines. Like, there's still a few seasons to go, kind of thing.
Yeah,
3 years, quite a long time.
That's a lot of, like, well, sporting prestige, but that's also a lot of money. Like, if you finish higher up in the grid, you get so much more money than you would do if you finish P10. You can't just say off, oh, we'll wait till Audi get here. So like, I don't know what's wrong with the car.
Audi might just change their mind.
I don't know what's wrong with the car. I don't know what.
They haven't said what's wrong. That was my next question. What is actually wrong with the car?
Yeah, that's
It's
the thing.
not quick.
Yeah, that's the only issue. Like,
With the tyres, I'm assuming that's degs. So.
Yeah, but like, it just seems to be a car that's got faults all over, which is not a great thing for.
And it's crazy because they have a
someone to
very
do.
competent, experienced driver in Bottas.
Yeah.
So
And they've got a good team behind them. They've got Andreas Seidel, came from McLaren. Like, they've got some obviously, like, people know what they're doing, like, but it's just not working out so far.
Yeah.
Okay, Haas. It was a difficult weekend for them last weekend in Baku. I will still never understand why they did that. Why hit so late? Why do that?
And then he hit someone.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Alpine.
Yeah.
That was very dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really dangerous.
Again, forgettable Haas.
They're not forgettable.
No, that was a forgettable weekend for
I
Haas.
just didn't understand the strategy. And I know we were talking about it while the race was going on, but to pit so late and then lose those places, why not pit earlier and try and regain the place? He left it so late.
I think they were gambling. Like, they knew they weren't going to get points, but the only way they could have got points is to have Hulkenberg on his tyres for ages, hope there's like a red flag or a safety car late on, and then give him fresh tyres so he can keep that place. And it just didn't work out. Like, I think Alpine were hoping for something similar. Like, they were sort of waiting, and then it just didn't happen. I think because every other car was like separated by at least 5 seconds at one point. Like, no one was going to crash. I mean, De Vries was already out, so no one was really going to crash. It just didn't happen for them. Like that, I think that was the only option they had, and it just didn't happen. So I don't blame them too much for it, even if it did look a bit embarrassing when they actually finished.
I'd love if we had like the top 10 crashes or like most mistaken drivers that just love to make errors and just put them all in one Grand Prix. And I would love to see it.
You just want a Latifi remix.
I want Latifi, Mazepin, De Vries, everyone out there.
You got to put Schumacher.
I want everyone out there together. I would love that.
That would be so good.
They should do it.
Yeah.
If they want to bring
dropping bananas.
If they want to bring views and money into the sport, do their own little
best of the rest.
yes, exactly. That would be wonderful.
Right, finally we are talking about Williams. Alex Albon said after the race in Baku that he felt it was one of his strongest weekends for the team despite not scoring any points. Logan Sargent is very excited for the weekend. He's revealed the race will be the first time he's raced cars at home in America, given his mostly European career due to F1. Last season Albon did score points for Williams. He finished 9th. So this could be a good weekend for Williams.
Coming home.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's obviously a big weekend. It's coming home.
I don't think it's coming home, mate.
It never really does.
I can't see Logan Sargent bringing it home to Miami. I've got to be honest.
Can you imagine though the scenes?
That's an MBE on
That's how you really get more American viewers on this sport.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Sargent's a weird case really, because I think if you speak to some Americans, like they're okay about him. Like they don't really see him as like their hometown hero. Like the fact he hasn't raced in America so far sort of shows that. Like he's very much an American kid who got transported into Europe, and now they're sort of trying to make him turn him back to this American guy. And the fact he hasn't driven in America at all is just sort of bizarre.
Yeah,
like
they'll buy into that soap.
Yeah, I think like some good like PR, some good like quotes will get.
They'll have him
like,
coming out like riding on like an American flag or something, wearing one like USA.
Yeah. I haven't seen his helmet for the weekend, but I'm sure it'll be something to do.
There'll be a flag on the side, 100%.
Big American stuff, stripes.
Land of the free, all that.
All
that.
Yeah.
He's going to do himself very, very quickly. To them. Right, but by the way, before we go, we have this PS. What is it, Joe?
PS5.
PS5.
Not a PS4 like I like to call it.
PS5, which we are giving away right here on Track GP. So what you need to do is you need to like, you need to subscribe, and you need to follow on Instagram as well as on YouTube. And you can be in with a chance of winning.
Don't drop it.
Quite heavy, actually.
Yeah.
This beautiful PS5 as modelled here by Jones Al. It's like QVC, guys.
It says lightning speed on the back, appropriate for F1.
So make sure you do all of that. Make sure you like, subscribe, and of course follow on Instagram as well to be in with a chance of winning that. But that is all from us. We are going to have you covered for this weekend. We're going to have it popping off in here for Miami. There's going to be bottles and everything. It's going to feel like you are literally in a live nightclub. So I look forward to it. All of us are going to be here to spend a bank holiday with you as well, and we will see you then for the Miami Grand Prix.